Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
Hi, I'm Ken Jennings. All of us here at Jeopardy want to thank you for your service to our nation. We truly honor and appreciate you, and what's more, we're looking for contestants like you to play on our show. So head to Jeopardy.com now and take the Anytime test, and we're looking forward to seeing you soon right here on the Owl.
And welcome to America's Heroes Group, this time with our partner, National Nurses United. Today is Saturday, November 18th, 2023. Happy Thanksgiving coming up this Thursday. Make sure that all you veterans out there eat hearty and well, and we wish you well overseas particularly. Our host is Cliff Kelley. I'm Sean Claiborne, the co-host. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is Ivan Ortega of Scotland Productions. And of course, November is Military Family Appreciation, National Family Caregiver, and Alzheimer's Disease Awareness Month. And we have a partner with us. That's Adelena Marshall, Suggestion Bound VA mental health nurse. And also, we're going to talk about domestic violence and the programs and services that the VA offers. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Pretty good.
Thanks for having us here today. It's our pleasure to be able to speak with you and our audience about this subject. And now that the holidays are approaching, a lot of times domestic violence increase during those periods of time. So we just want to make your listening public aware of some of the things that I'll say are flags of potential domestic violence abusers, and how some of our veterans are impacted by this, male, females, and trans.
So give us a sense, how widespread is, for our audience, how widespread is domestic abuse and domestic violence among the military population and veterans?
Well, I don't have all the statistics, but there's a high statistics there. You have family separation due to assignments. They come back home. The family doesn't understand what they've been through. The separation contributes to anxiety, and sometimes during the separation, that while they're on, sent on duty or changing bases, it creates a difference in the people involved. Like sometimes they become involved in jobs or other projects, and maybe the spouse is coming back home. They feel they're not getting the attention that they need. They may feel that their partner has engaged in other relationships. Substance abuse is a big contributing factor, and also actually, you'll be surprised. Also, some of the medication that they provide for, to increase intimate relationships where they haven't received proper education regarding the little blue pill. And they may come home, or they do come home wanting to have intimacy with their partners, and the stress, and some of them are tired from traveling so long, and it impacts that intimacy. And they might need medication and doesn't understand how the medication works, and then may not be able to engage in that intimacy, or the partner may have lost some interest in that.
So if someone's going through domestic violence, can they call the VA to try to get out of that situation?
Well, the VA does have programs. Our social workers have programs. The VA just had a big program for Domestic Violence Month, which was October. They have put advertisement on all the trains in Chicago, the Blue Line. I think there's Pink Line. All the lines have advertisement of the VA involvement in trying to reduce and prevent domestic violence.
Because from what I understand from a lot of the advocacy groups that support people that have gone through domestic violence and domestic abuse, the military population is about twice as likely. There's about 2 times as many incidents of spousal abuse than the civilian population. So it seems to be pretty pervasive. What are some of the things that people can do to get help through the VA? Specifically, what are some of the programs? How do these programs actually help people in the military?
Some
population?
of our military who've had traumatic brain injuries, especially depending on where that injury is, can cause them to act very violently. And so there are many programs. We encourage our veterans, if they feel they need help or if they're in a domestic violence situation, to come to the VA and meet with our social workers so that they can help support them, put them in program, maybe help them to find housing or shelter that will, remove them from that threat of violence. And this is male or female and trans. They're all exposed to domestic violence.
There was an interesting story on CBS. They had Kate O'Donnell actually did a story on military sexual abuse and also spousal abuse in the military. And what she found by interviewing a lot of women who were in the military, currently serving, and veterans, that they often felt scared or hesitant to report their abuse because they felt that they would be more in danger after reporting it than before.
They do feel that way, and sometimes the abuser will react very violently to know. And in the military, if they're accused of domestic violence, it can impact their career. So they do react kind of violently if it is reported or if they're threatening. And I would advise anybody who's in a domestic violence situation to not threaten to leave or to notify the police. Just go and do it. Just be silent about it and wait till you're in a safe environment to take those steps, because you're placing yourself at risk if you're pushing back in that manner, saying, well, if you don't stop, I'm going to report this or whatever. I would encourage them not to do that, but to seek help. If you're in the military, you can go to an officer or somewhere, or clergy. They have social service also in the military that will help support military spouses regarding that.
One of the things I find interesting is that 85% of abusers, from what I understand and what I've read about, are men, and about 500 women are killed a year from domestic abuse, from what's been reported. This seems like we as men could do a lot more to try and resolve this issue. What are some of the things that men need to understand so that they get the help before they become violent or want to take someone's life?
Well, I think the first thing men need to understand is that this is a very, very serious situation, and that your partner is not somebody that you feel you can take your anxiety or frustrations out on it. Some of the signs of someone who may respond negatively that way is people who have problems with authoritative figures. Your spouse or partner may become embarrassed in the presence of others, and that can trigger them. The behavior on the road, and I'll also add behavior towards pets. If you have a spouse that's abusive to your dog or your cat or whatever pet you may have, then that's a sign that may carry over into the family dynamics. Your partner also wants all your attention all the time, what people would call clingy, or they got to be around me all the time, they have to be in charge. Sometimes they have dual personalities, or what we may, most people would call a dual personality. So one minute they're very nice and calm, and then the next minute they become very aggressive. They anger easily over the slightest little thing. And I always say, if you're feeling overwhelmed or have high anxiety levels, just go ahead and take a walk or a break or go for a little drive to just remove yourself from the other areas. Sometimes they make promises to you and promises, I'm not going to do that again, or whatever, and then you want to trust in that it's not going to happen again. But those are first signs. If they're overly jealous, if you're around your friends or family, if they won't let you be among your family by yourself, they've always got to be there, or, with your friends, if you want to go out to lunch or something with your girlfriends or your male friends, and they just start acting out. They're very critical of you or what you're wearing and things like that. Unnecessary criticism. It's not that they might comment that they might like an outfit or something, but just very, very critical no matter what you do, and controlling.
It seems like there's a big psychological game, I guess you want to call it, that is there.
It is.
And there's people that have never been in the military that are abusive. I don't know if there's any studies out there that show that whether or not if the military increases, it seems to lend that the idea that trauma is contagious. When I say trauma is contagious, because it seems like when people experience trauma, particularly men in the military, and sometimes women too, but men in the military, because most of the abusers are men. We are most of the abusers out there. You get the trauma, you start to self-medicate, and then all of a sudden you take it out in violence. Either you're shooting yourself or shooting somebody else, or you're beating your spouse.
Well, strangulation and stabbing is also can lead to that, not just necessarily someone being shot, or there's reports of people trying to run over, intimate partners. Also, a lot of times with games, football games, basketball games, if you don't have the food ready or if you interrupt that. And so I would encourage spouses, male or female, if the male is engaged in that, then you know what, go out maybe shopping or doing something, maybe go to a movie or something during that period, that if they get if your partner is just very intense into the game, or they might even get angry if their team lost, so they don't take losses very well. Or they feel, some of them have strong feelings of abandonment. But I
think there's a difference between being mad that your team won. If the Bears lose, you might get mad, you might throw something at TV, but taking a hand to someone and doing any kind of physical violence over really anything, a wise man told me once is that when you actually go to cuffs, meaning you start putting hands on people to try to physically fight someone, that means you have already lost the previous fight, which is your words, your language. You can't express yourself correctly or express yourself or deal with the trauma that you're already experiencing or the pain that you have inside, so you take it out on somebody else. Right. And it seems like we need to do a better job at trying to get men to actually face up and deal with their pain and their trauma, so that they don't become abusive or they stop being abusive. Because oftentimes the guy walking down the street that everybody sees and seems like he's the life of the party, the nicest guy in the world, volunteers at church and everything like that, could be the same guy that's being abusive to his children or to his wife or a spouse or a significant other at home.
You're right. Exactly. They're hidden abusers. They want the public to see them one way, their friends and family, but once they are away from that environment, their personality changes, their behavior changes, and it becomes a flag that something's going on. Some women early in the relationship may not even recognize some of the signs because you got somebody giving you a lot of attention, and then that attention can turn into control, and then it leads to something else, and you may want out of the relationship, but you may feel stuck there. But I would encourage them to seek help, to if you're a veteran, go to the VA. If you're a private citizen, there's women's shelters. There's, the Y might be able to help them and have information for them that might support them getting out of that relationship.
And I also want to give out the National Domestic Abuse Hotline number, which is 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233. Whether you are the abuser or being abused, call that number to get help. And particularly for men, I think they should reach out to, if ideations of violence, if you think about hurting yourself or hurting other people, don't let it escalate and don't let yourself snap and then do something that you regret. and don't ruin somebody else's life
text
by spreading your trauma. Like I said, trauma is contagious. I mean, I've come to the conclusion that trauma is contagious, because you have the trauma and you're doing things into yourself and having these ideas in your head. And what do? You act out, and then now you spread the trauma to somebody else.
Right. There's also, they can text 88788. So those numbers, I would encourage everybody to lock it into your phone so you can have it. It should be also wherever you might have your emergency numbers, put that there so you can quickly, access that. Go to the bathroom. If you're on an airplane, let the staff on the flights know that you may need help when that airplane lands, that you may be afraid to continue on with that trip or home with that person, and they can intervene. But I always felt that the women's bathroom is a pretty safe place for women to go to. A lot of times there's other women there, and they might offer you some kind of support or be able to call that number for you if you don't have your phone. Sometimes your phone is not available to you. Your phone has been taken away from you, so you don't have access. And that's also another trigger for abuse, because now people go through your phone and they feel there's something there that shouldn't be there. It could be misinterpreted, or somebody could have sent them something thinking it's funny or whatever. It can trigger that spouse, again, male or female or trans. That phone becomes a very dangerous thing to have. So, you have to be mindful of that. If you have somebody that's very jealous or suspicious, or even to the point of paranoia, be mindful of them having access to your phone.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like also that oftentimes these things seem to escalate. So it starts out, everything starts like as a honeymoon period where the relationship is good, everything seems to be fine. Then all of a sudden, as time goes on, like as you mentioned, things start to add on. They start becoming more controlling. Then they don't want to let you out their sight. And the next thing you know, they're criticizing you and being critical. And the next thing you know, they're getting angrier and angrier. The next thing you know, it escalates, hopefully not, but to violence. So those early warning signs, I think, are really important, as you mentioned.
Right, or relationships that haven't had time to develop, and all of a sudden they're declaring, their love for you or something. And again, if it doesn't feel good to you, if your antenna goes up at all, you have guardian angels on your shoulder, and they are always right and almost always immediately right. Learn to not second guess yourself. If you just pick up on anything, maybe you're out to dinner with somebody and you're just not feeling comfortable, you don't think you want to see this person again, follow that feeling. But don't be disrespectful in ending the relationship. Just say, we mutually or something like that, because that person, that could also trigger somebody.
It seems like the best way to go is, in most cases, is just to leave. Because the more conversations you have with that individual that's being violent, the more excuses they give as to why you shouldn't leave.
Right, if you see it's escalating, but it may not escalate at that point, but you just might feel like, they've said something, or your antenna done gone up and like, no, this is not for me. Then you need to go ahead and, excuse yourself or pay for your own meal and just go.
I always thought it was
worth it.
I always thought a good sign for men and women is if the person that you're with, are they still friends with anybody they used to date? Particularly if that person was in a serious relationship. If they're still friends with people they used to date, that's usually a good sign. I know that doesn't sit well with a lot of people, because sometimes people have their own egos.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And they don't want to hear about the ex-person. But if that person has no connection with anybody they ever dated before, to me that's a red flag.
Right. Or even family members. I mean, we get veterans that have a history of violence, and the family doesn't want to be around them, or sometimes they will will tell us that they have challenges maintaining relationships. Some of them have dated people in other countries and maybe bought them here, and the next thing they know, they left because they're afraid of them. So, and also how they interact with their family, with their mother, with their father, But a lot of the abuse have started in the home. They were abused, or they've seen their parents be abusive to each other, and they don't think anything's wrong with it, and they start relationships out like that.
Yeah, I think we all know. I think all logical people know that hitting someone is wrong. But I think the difference is that from even guys that I've known that have confessed to me that they've been violent, the thing that I hear oftentimes is that they just snap. They don't. It's like they can't control it. And oftentimes when they do it, they're apologetic and are sorry for doing it. But yet they keep doing it because they can't stop. They don't have any other way or mechanism of trying to express themselves. It's like the first thing that triggers them, they just snap and they just the first thing they do is become violent because that's all they really know how to do. So learning how to channel that anger and channel that violence into something else. One question to you though, before we run out of time, is if you're married to someone or in a relationship with someone who's a veteran, but you are not a veteran. So say oftentimes, most military veterans are men. If they have a woman in her life or a person in her life who's not a veteran, can they get help from the VA?
Yeah, the VA will help. We've even had patients that are not veterans, but they're married to a veteran, and they'll do humanitarian support for them. So I would say just reach out to the VA. We have many, many programs, and the VA is growing, and we want our veterans. A veteran is someone who is already out of the military, to come there and to seek the help and let us support them. And I can say one more thing about the VA. I just in the last 2 months, the VA is hiring. We've just hired over 60 RNs, which is unheard of. So the professionals are coming in to be able to support the programs that the VA is offering. I mean, as sometimes we would maybe only have 6 or 7 RNs coming in a month or a few months, but just from early October to last Wednesday, we've had already 60 RNs, and this is just alone at Jesse Brown, that is coming in to support all the programs that the VA is offering our vets. And also more of a focus on mental health and hiring more mental health professionals to offer counseling and care to our veterans who are suffering. I mean, I have veterans have told me they just get blinding headaches and then they just feel violent from that, or some of the things they've experienced will trigger them. One person told me I just stay mad all the time. All the time. So, can we support that? We have programs for anger management and to teach you how to calm yourself, and even medication if needed, prescription meds if needed to assist you to be able to deal with life stressors.
And to be clear also, too, that if someone is not married to a veteran who hasn't served in the military, can they get help from the VA if they're being abused by a veteran?
So I would say call the VA and they can direct them as necessary. We don't really take non-veterans, but if you are married to a veteran, then come there and seek treatment or get information on how we can best assist you. And that veteran might be more open if their significant other is coming to the VA. They might be more open for treatment, knowing that their significant other is reaching out to the VA.
All right. And men out there, if you're listening, watching our show either on YouTube or Facebook, or coming upon this podcast later in life as this podcast goes through the ether and so on in the future, Get help if you are having violent thoughts. There's no reason for you to have violent thoughts about hurting people, hurting yourself, hurting anybody in your family, particularly. Go get help, get treated, talk it out, find out what the issue is, solve your trauma. Because if you don't, it's all you're doing is sowing that seed of trauma, and it's spreading to everybody in your family.
Right, but this is not just a men's problem.
True.
These are,
85% of men are
85
of the abusers are men.
Anybody, yes, because there are some females who can be very abusive in domestic violence, and it's just not physical. You know, it could be, like we said, verbal abuse. So it can cross a lot of different social interactions, and just be mindful of, if you are in a situation like that, please go to a place to be safe and seek help for yourself as well as your spouse. If you're married to them or you want to stay in that relationship, then try to seek help so that the relationship can improve and you won't be at risk of being harmed or killed by somebody.
Now, have you ever seen someone become reformed from being abusive to their partner?
Yeah, I think once they realize what is triggering them and learn better coping skills and reduce the stress that might lead to that, we see. I see a lot of patients recovering. Our mental health care now is focused on recovering. And so I've had patients that I've seen years later that will come up to me and I don't even recognize them because their recovery has been very successful, and they're milder, they're approachable, they're enjoyable to talk with. So yeah, I've seen it. I can give you statistics, but I can testify that I am aware of that happening.
Adelena Marshall, thank you for your time. I thank us for telling us about the Jesse Brown VA domestic violence programs that are available. Once again, if you have any problems in your life with domestic violence, whether you see it or whether you know about it, whether you experience it yourself, call the National Abuse Hotline, 800-799-7233. That's 800-799-7233. This is America's Heroes Group. We'll be right back.